Joe, you have to point.
What's that?
Although I grew up on the lower Mackenzie, I did have some work I did up here. I used to hoe filberts in that orchard out there, and I carried every one of the cement blocks that makes up Vitaposo. Still not?
Put it close to your mouth and just hold it short now.
Do I really need it?
Yes.
But I'm the guy that the previous speaker mentioned about having observed the loss of the salmon runs. When I came back from Vietnam in 1970, the run didn't show up, and I went off to graduate school at the University of Colorado. When I come back from that, there weren't any more salmon runs, and I asked my dad, what happened to our salmon runs? And he said, well, they all disappeared in 1970 when the Japanese began using 40 to 50 mile long drift nets. And I've been telling people that story for decades now, and before I put it up in writing for eWeb and the Army Corps of Engineers, I went on the internet highway and checked it out and found out that my dad was absolutely right with both the year and the length of those drift nets. 40 to 50 mile long drift nets. Now, the people that I've been trying to talk to about my observations of ignore the fact that we had beautiful salmon runs and beautiful salmon spawning beds all downriver from the dams. And after all the dams were put in, the spawning beds on the lower river were just extreme. And I'm confident that there were a lot more salmon born on the lower river below all the dams than there are up above the dams. And I have received absolutely no response from either eWeb or the Corps of Engineers, and the people who call themselves scientists yet ignore the coincidence of that timing and the fact that all those spawning beds were downstream from the dams. They shouldn't be calling themselves scientists. And one thing I've often wondered about is how much money are we throwing away by destroying all of the material and work that went into that dam and those power canals. And just by coincidence, I ran into an outfit that is interested in buying the whole project and restoring our fish hatchery and keeping the power canal going. And they sent a representative out from North Carolina, I think she was, Tennessee. But anyway, I took her out and showed her the dam and the fish hatchery and walked her down the power canal and showed her the power plant. And they would like to meet with eWeb and negotiate about buying the whole project and keeping our fish hatchery going and saving us these hundreds of millions of dollars it's going to take to tear that stuff out. And eWeb won't meet with them. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Well, excuse me, there's two of us in here that can speak real strongly on the fishing problem. No, it's not the nets anymore. That's all went away. What is going on now is the Oregon Commission has been, how can I be friendly saying it's went very green? We have sea lions, we have cormorants, we have terns killing the smoke and the sea lions coming, and the fish coming back. Now, there is a thing about and Danny can help you more than I can on this. Right now, there is, when the dam is put in, there is Danny, what's the agreement? Anyhow, 10%, only 10% hatchery fish can go above the dam right now. I'm curious what's going to happen when that happens, because that's in the agreement right now. Right now, you're losing 375,000 potential Chinook if that hatchery comes out right now. So there's a whole lot. I know I'm rambling here, but I've been at this for a long time. Danny has too, and we can sit down and give you some real good facts and figures. Number one thing, I'm in 4 different STEP programs, salmon trout enhancement projects. If anybody is willing to start a step program. Then you have priority for the water. Now, and don't forget, the Corps owns that hatchery. They leased it to ODF&W, but the Corps owns that hatchery and the land. So any agreements has to come through them.
You're talking about this downstream salmon hatchery or the
No, the upstream.
the upstream at the dam?
Yes,
That no longer has any water in it at all?
that's correct. I guess it's, Danny, didn't you say it's gonna start real quick?
Yeah, the trout hatchery is supposed to refill with water in November if they're on schedule.
Awesome.
So we're keeping our fingers crossed because they got a lot of trout to move and we need that available space to bring our salmon back to the smolts and stuff to raise there. Because of course salmon hatchery, you've got nothing in it.
Right, because the canal's been down
Yeah.
for 6 years. Yeah.
But what Leroy was talking about was the hatchery genetic management plan, which only allows a 10% escapement across that dam down there. And if you go above it, then they start deducting numbers of hatchery fish that you can raise to offset supposedly the damage that they're creating on the gravel up here. Which, if you go way back, they used to put a weir across the McKenzie River and block it completely and harvest all the salmon out and harvest the eggs and raise them in a hatchery. Well, that went on for almost 50 years, and then they try and tell us that these wild fish up here aren't under hatchery influence. Well, that's garbage. It's been that way forever. They just have figured out that, you know, we can still spawn in the gravel if we're left alone, and it only takes one generation for those fish to go back the other way and start gaining their original habits and stuff back that Mother Nature put in there that's exclusive to this watershed.
Well, I think that's in agreement with the idea I had of how to test the theory. And the way to test the theory would be to put a whole bunch of fertilized eggs into those previous spawning beds downstream from all the dams and see if those salmon can actually make it through that commercial fishing, because commercial fishing is not going to go down, is not. And all of those critters that were mentioned that eat salmon, I observed all those critters back when we had profuse salmon runs. We had all of those critters eating salmon, and we still had an abundance of salmon in the runs.
No, not nearly as much. Right now, there is over 400% in the last 5 years of sea lions. 400%.
Yeah.
You never saw them beating that. Go down to Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. Look at the population that's destroyed the docks down there.
Here, 39.
Pardon?
Here, 39. You took it over.
Yeah. Danny and I are really involved in this. And on top of that, the backing that we are getting out of the Yakima Nation and the Nez Perce tribes with the success on the Columbia. One thing you're going to get a lot of support too. The McKinsey supports, I think it's 375,000 smolt. Danny can help me on this. But those fish go not too much to us, but for Portland residents. And that'll be gone if you lose this hatchery. And we need the dam to get the water into the hatchery.
Maybe I could get you guys details and I can talk to you both and see what you need to.
Use your mic, please.
And one thing real quick, I'm a resident of Eugene for over, well, more than one day. I didn't know anything about this. I happened to be talking to Danny about something that's going on the coast right now. And he said, well, there's a meeting up here. So here I am. Now, and one thing, if you want something done, I'm going to get a little political. I'm not going to mention any groups, one way or the other. Eugene has 31 or 36 environmental groups in Eugene. You wonder why you get the slanted? You can pass anything if you call it green. We're fighting right now to keep Horton Pond. They want to tear that dam out. We've been at that for a year and a half. We're fighting to keep it going. I don't want to ramble on too much, but I do want to tell you, you get a lot of support from upriver, but I didn't know a dang thing about this. And no reflection upon you guys, but we do not have a newspaper left in Eugene. And I'm sorry, but I get tired of hearing how great one side is over the other. I like to walk between the two. As I say, I voted for,
Well, I've come to dislike the term environmental destruction myself. I prefer the term habitat modification. And there's a lot of species on the face of the earth that do habitat modification. Birds build nests, gophers dig holes in the ground, beavers build dams, and humans build dams to facilitate our needs. But I'll tell you, the coincidence of these huge commercial fishing efforts and the disappearance of our salmon downstream from all the dams, that is what I think is the most important piece of evidence that we have to look at.
I will bring you information that that's no longer happening. That goes back to when we took 200 miles. And it used to be they could come within 3 miles. Now we restrict them to over 200 miles. Now there is still some bad problems, but it's not like it was. What we're finding is just the fact climate change, and man is the worst predator of all of our wildlife.
Yeah.
I mean,
So gents, I think we can probably talk about this for a little while.
no, I mean, yeah, I mean,
And I think
you're
we've probably got some people signed up who wanted to say something.
Could you let these gentlemen say their names so the rest of us can hear their names, please?
my name's Leroy Bigley, B-E-A-G-L-E-Y.
Leroy, are you an E-Web customer?
Yes, I am.
Had no communication about this whatsoever in your billing or anything else?
No. The only thing that we've been, well,
My name is Danny Raymond.
Danny Raymond?
Danny. And I am the president of the CCA chapter here in Eugene. We are a nonprofit and we work on behalf of salmon, steelhead, sturgeon, and ocean fish. And we are probably the largest advocate going on the West Coast.
Great. Thank you both for coming along. You've added a different dimension. That's great.
That's why I'm here.
And if any of you want to get a hold of me or see the write-ups I've done on this, you can get that through Nadine. And I think that's about all I got to say, and I'm going to go home. Oh, you got a question?
No, we've got, we think, once,